Stride.
Bernard, thank you. And Prime Minister, good afternoon. Welcome to the committee. Prime Minister, do you think that the spending assumptions in the forecast that the OBR released alongside the budget are realistic?
The spending assumptions released by the OBR for
the assumptions implicit in the OBR's forecast that was released at the time of the budget, are those figures realistic?
Just remind me which particular figures you have in mind now.
The departmental capital expenditure, the standard figures that go into the fiscal output report that the forecast that the OBR produces alongside every major fiscal event, and certainly alongside the budget.
I certainly think that the OBR is right to think that the public finances are under very considerable pressure as a result of COVID, and if you mean the 407 billion expenditure that the pandemic has necessitated, then I was discussing that last night with the Chancellor and certainly agree with that.
So no, I'm really referring to the forecast, which, as you know, forecasts out for the next 5 years. There are assumptions made as to what the government will be spending in each one of those. And I'm just asking whether.
Yes, I think that. Thanks. Sorry, Mel. On that point, I think what the OBR has been suggesting is that. I mean, obviously, things are very tough, and spending has been necessarily very extensive, but the fiscal repair measures, as it were, that Rishi took in the budget are set to work over the medium term.
Well, when you say, Prime Minister, that the OBR's figures, they are the OBR's figures in the sense that they appear in the forecast, but they're figures, of course, provided by the Treasury. So I guess my question is, are you comfortable with the government's assumptions as to the spending levels that they are expected to be over the coming years?
Yes, because I'm comfortable with it. I wish we weren't in this position. I wish we didn't have to fire hose so much money at COVID to put out the conflagration. But I think that the Chancellor's budget was extremely good and has put us back on a sustainable path.
So the reason why I raise this, Prime Minister, is that there are many economists who believe that the figures that are on spending within that forecast are quite unrealistic. And Paul Johnson, for example, of the IFS, has offered a 10-to-1 against the spending assumptions being met. And that's because there are a lot of costs that one can anticipate coming down the line that are not captured within the figures that the Treasury provided to the OBR. And we've indeed touched on a number of those areas in the discussion this afternoon, on things of social care commitments, for example, that were not baked into the budget. There's no explicit provision for spending on annual vaccinations beyond the current programme. We've got test and trace that we've discussed this afternoon. There's a huge backlog in our hospitals. There's nurses' pay, all the children who one presumes will need more resource if they're to catch up on lost learning, and perhaps pressure for yet a further uplift in the UC and universal credit uplift. Doesn't that leave you feeling slightly queasy about the assumptions on spending that the government's operating to, given its critical importance in terms of the actions that we take in supporting the public finances?
These were the figures that the Treasury put out in the OBR recorded, and I'm not going to make predictions now about the future, about future budgets and future spending reviews, but what I can certainly say is I think that the UK, if we continue with the roadmap to freedom in the way that we are, and as I said yesterday, I don't see any reason there's no sign in the data that causes me to believe we're at this stage that we're going to have to deviate from that roadmap to freedom. I believe our chances of a strong recovery are very good.
How do you square that, though, with saying a little while ago that you remain committed to resolving the social care crisis, and yet we know that and there is no money in those forecasts to take that into account? Those two things, it seems to me, don't really square. But if we do accept that your statement that you do have confidence in these numbers, does that therefore mean that taxation as the total level of the tax burden in the UK will be expected not to rise? And can you make that commitment this afternoon that we shouldn't expect that what is already the highest since Roy Jenkins was Chancellor in the 1960s, that we shouldn't expect the tax burden to rise on the basis of your confidence of those figures at the moment?
I strongly believe in a low tax government, and I'm a low tax conservative. I think that's the best way forward for our country, and as we go forward, we're going to want to be as dynamic and as competitive as we can possibly be, and having the right fiscal framework is vital for that. But even the increasing corporation tax doesn't come in for 2 years, and it's the rate is still at the lowest in the G7, and it's preceded by a super deduction for capital investment, for business investment, which I think is incredibly attractive, and I hope will give people confidence and get our economy moving. And I don't think you should necessarily draw the conclusion from what's in the OBR numbers about spending that we won't have the room to make the profound changes on social care that Jeremy and I discussed earlier on.
Do you think that
very briefly,
it would not require any uplift in those numbers of spending, because they're not captured in there at the moment, and that's quite a large bill. But can I just ask one final question? You mentioned the
very briefly.
Deduction. The super deduction lasts for 2 years, as we know. Thereafter, companies that currently have chronically low levels of investment, not just because of the pandemic, but because we've had a historical situation there, will then go into a situation where that support's not there and corporation tax is rising quite significantly. What is it after the super deduction has gone through in that couple of years that will be there from the government support corporates investing further?
Well, you've got a world now in which business rates are unprecedentedly low. VAT's been cut. You've got, as you know, Mel, because you've been following this throughout, huge support through C-bills, through furlough, through all the instruments the government has used. Plus, you've now got a super deduction for investment, and to say nothing of the kickstart funding for hiring people, a huge package to get the economy moving. And the purpose is to trigger confidence growth and investment, and a virtuous circle.
Prime Minister, thank you.